Hello, welcome into Trial by Combat. This is episode 2. I'm your host, Hoags. With me is Typhoon. Typhoon, say hello.
Hello.
Hello. Hello there. So, after an exciting week 1 of competition, we're here to talk to you about the games, break it down a little bit, and talk about week 2, of course. How did you feel about week 1, Typhoon? Did it meet your expectations, or did it kind of exceed your expectations, or what are your thoughts on week 1?
It's IBSG. It's never going to be my expectations, let's be honest. But there was some mega banger series, so that was good. At least we had some entertainment.
That's true. All right, well, let's just jump right into it. So we'll start out with the Group A games from week 1, and to start things off, we'll talk about the Divine Lizards versus Vice Dystopia. Divine Lizards came out in top 2-1, and so at least it made it to 3 games, which is always fun and exciting. And so talking about game 1, Vice pulled out the victory game 1, and why do you think they? Well, let's just talk about the series in general. So they win game 1, they lose 2 games in a row. Obviously, something happened. Typhoon, what causes you to win game 1 and then kind of go down for 2 games straight? What do you think happened in this series?
Yeah, I mean, like typically when the team gets reverse swept in a best of 3 in Fearless, it's like, oh, their champion pool's not deep enough. They just, missed the draft. They messed up the draft, and or they just ran out of champions. They're like one tricks or whatever. I don't even think that was the case with this series. Like this series literally just felt like you found a style that worked for you in game 1 with the Malphite jungle and like having a lot of engage and it burst, and then you just completely just dropped all of that and drafted 0 engage in back-to-back games, and we're just like, we're better than our opponent, so we're gonna hands check you in lane, and that just obviously did not work.
Yeah, that you get a good game plan, and you kind of got to stick to it and play to your strengths. And it seems like they did that in game 1, but then didn't carry it through the rest of the series. And sometimes it might work out for you, but most times it doesn't. League doesn't seem to be, very forgiving when it comes to changing it up like that. So how about the, obviously there's 10 good players, but one of them has to stand out. Who would you say was our series MVP for game 1, or for the whole series, not game 1?
I had Cosmic Silence. I mean, like, it was just so many kills from Cosmic Silence in the series, and just all around stability. I think both both carry lanes had the argument for it because they both played pretty stable in all 3 games. But I think Cosmic Silence was just a bit better, and even rating wise on the stats website or whatever, he's also way up there compared to just the rest of his team in general. So
yeah, he averaged 10 kills per game, and like you said, that was the second top kills per game average for the week. So he obviously stood out amongst his teammates and amongst the Vice Dystopia team as well. So yeah, Cosmic Silence definitely stood out in that series for sure. Let's move on to the next game. The next one's Malevolent Maelstrom. They 2-0'd Black Feather. Unfortunately, it didn't seem to be. It was obviously a one-sided heavy game. So what was your take from that series?
This was actually kind of fun because we had the POV of both AD carries in this series available. So that was actually kind of cool to watch. This series just kind of felt weird, like it just, I don't know, it just didn't seem to ever have a point where Black Feather could ever really contest anything. It just felt like they were behind from all points of the game, all game for both games.
It's actually funny. It's funny you should mention that because last Tuesday night, me and Typhoon and I were kind of doing our own thing. We weren't together, whatever. And halfway through the night, we sent each other a message, said, "Hey, are you watching the games? What are you watching? What's your take?" And coincidentally, you were watching the 80 carries point of view from Malevolent, and I was watching the 80 carries point of view from Black Feather. So it was kind of funny that we were both watching the same game from opposite teams. And I don't know, the take I got from Black Feather, they just didn't seem like they had a lot of time together. That's kind of like there was that team connection. I just didn't feel it by listening to their comms and watching the game. And that that doesn't mean anything. A couple weeks from now, it could be a whole different story. So hopefully they find that chemistry that they need to come together, and it definitely could happen.
It felt also kind of weird because they kind of just like, especially in game one, it felt like they just were not. They had no like resemblance of like idea of how to play the game based on the champions they picked and whatnot. Because like Aragon is a Shaco main. Like it's well known. I don't need to hide the fact that he's a Shaco main.
Mhm.
But they didn't really draft around the fact that they are also picking a Shaco. Shaco is like a really, really good, like really good at like creating numbers advantages, doing some weird gank angles, a lot of pick plays, but they kind of just never were able to get it going. And then they also just like they picked Swain, Jinx, Braum. Like they're picking their top jungle and their bot three just didn't feel like it really worked well together because the bottom three want to just straight up 5v5 like death ball, and the top two want to play for pick plays, play on side lanes, make cross maps, stuff like that. And it just didn't feel like they worked together at all. And then of course, on the other side it's just a Yasuo comp, so multiple forms of knockup, including a Malphite that looked quite solid, quite rock solid from Thin. And it's just like at that point, it makes the game super hard. And then game two was no better. I mean, the cohesion was there a little bit better, but it was just a tough game in the solo lanes, honestly.
Yeah, that's exactly the feeling I got. But the thing is like I said, in a couple weeks' time, this team comes together. You never know what could happen. So
Oh yeah, it's
I'm
still
not
very
counting.
early.
Yeah, I'm definitely not counting them out quite yet. So it's obviously easy to pick an MVP from Malevolent, but which player did you pick for MVP for this series?
This one I actually just picked two people because I was just like, whatever. It was
Okay.
Sushi and Spirited Book. Both of them, both went completely deathless in the series.
Oh wow.
Uh, and that's your two carry lanes in the mid and the 80 carry. So the fact that you guys can go completely deathless on your carries, in what's probably a weaker opponent, like from the start of the season, but still a very important statement to make that like your carries won't have goofy deaths or anything. So that's why I picked both of them. Really,
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. If you yeah, if you don't die in those lanes, the rest of the game is pretty much cooked at that point. So, all right, let's go on to the last game of the Group A division for Week 1. It's the Sea Dogs and the Hyrulean Heroes.
the Group A division.
That's what I said.
What a sentence! Yeah, it's such a goofy sentence though. The Group A division.
Okay,
You
well,
know what?
I know what you're going at. I know where you're going. If you know, you know. And Typhoon's the one who said it. Let's just remember that.
Oh yeah, here we go. Always me.
That's right. So anyways, the Sea Dogs 2-0'd the Hyrulean Heroes. It's a little bit more one-sided than we expected it to be. But let's talk about it. Hittigus put up a 37 KDA. So why do you think that happened, and what do you think caused that?
This is one that actually shocks me a little bit because like I thought Hyrulean Heroes were a little bit better than they performed, which means like, that means they still have the full season to figure it out. They definitely have the potential. So I'm definitely not ruling them out as a possible contender down the line. But Sea Dogs just looked so on the same page. They looked really good. Their team play was just really good. And then, of course you're gonna barely ever die when you're an 80 carry on a team that's working together really well.
So is that why Kitticus makes your nomination for MVP for the series?
Well, I mean, yeah, obviously he like it. Like I said, 80 carries are always going to look good on a team that's like hard winning, but he went 15-1 on Caitlyn.
Wow.
So The one thing I find strange, and I know this is kind of a thing, is the Buckby picks in mid just feels so interesting. Because, like, on one hand, it's like, yeah, it's cool to switch it up and whatnot, but it doesn't feel like they're getting the picks they need at the times they need them. Like, for example, Buckby's got a Malphite in game 1. He built a Kanik Rookern, which is fine and all, except you're against Yasuo MF. So that's double physical damage carries. And then, of course, there's the Amumu, the Kennen, they do magic damage, but still. So it feels a little weird. Like, it's a hard game to build a tank because of the fact that they have very split damage profiles and they all were strong.
Okay.
And then just game 2, like this Varus build, like I've seen this Varus, okay, this like Dusk and Dawn solo lane Varus. It's really good. Like it is a really OP champion and build right now. And I just into a Syndra, it just feels so bad. Like it's because you're never getting your autos off, and that's the whole point of the Dusk and Dawn item. Is it's a Sheen item, so you're just never getting your Sheen value from that in the lane, and that like it's just not a B1. It's just not a blue B1 like pick to me, unless obviously like if your AD carry can play it effectively, then it's like kind of fine. But even still, they like had the chance here. Like looking at the draft, right? Mm-hmm. They have the chance to flex it because they see a Caitlyn lane. They know it's Caitlyn. Varus can answer Caitlyn because Varus can out push her with a like Karma or something support. And then they just pick Senna Kench and like choose to lose the lane anyway. It was really weird, the draft. But like I could see the angle after looking at the 4-5 from Hyrulean for that game. But it's like the Varus B1 just doesn't feel right to me unless it's going to your AD carry.
Sometimes those oddball picks like that, like you said, you look at it at first and it just doesn't kind of make sense. But then if you look a little deeper, it could be playable. But you have to do it. The
Varus is playable. Yeah, it's really very strong.
But you have to do it just
into
right.
Like Galio. Yeah, it has to be into like Galio or something. Something where you can actually get value. And it just didn't feel like it got any value in the series.
That's what kind of makes this ELO fun, is that you see these kind of not oddball, but you see these picks that kind of don't make sense, but they kind of do, and then it's kind of fun to see them play out and see what ends up happening. And you can learn a lot from it too, as well. Like you said, you looked into that, and Varus was a great pick, strong, and they tried to match him up, but it just didn't quite work out. So now going down the road and later in the season that you probably won't see that combination together again. But I don't know. It's kind of that's kind of the fun, is that you get to see interesting matchups like that and see how they play out. So so that was Group A. Some good games there. A couple 2-0s. That's okay. There was a 3-game series. That's great. But let's jump on to Group B. The first game from Group B we'll talk about is the Jolly Roger Royal Fortune. They went 2-1 against the Twin Dragons. It kind of seemed like it was just kind of like more of a momentum game to me, where Jolly Rogers kind of just got a little steam and kept it going and didn't let up, just enough to knock off the Twin Dragons 2-1. What do you think?
Yeah, this one actually did kind of go like back and forth, and like both sides took a game. Like game 1, Royal Fortune won, and then Twin Dragons won game 2, and then it was like, okay, is the momentum going to be enough to swing you into a 2-1 win? But it kind of just was. Well, it was almost like the cohesion that the core of this JR team are bringing in from last split. It felt like that actually connected there in game 3 to make up the difference between the teams, because like their best performers in that game 3 were those 3 players in Lucifer, VV, and TDD. So that unfortunately, it's unfortunate really for Twin Dragons, but that's kind of just how it felt for JR. Is they just kind of like regrouped, went back to what they know because they were pretty successful last split, took their core of players, gave them their agency to do what they could do, with like the Kaisa, the Xinjiao, and then carry the game. And that's kind of what happened. And it was actually a really good series. Nice banger back and forth, pretty close games all around. But admittedly, like this game did feel a lot more in favor of JR, even in the loss. Like it felt like it took a long time for Twin Dragons to close out a game that was pretty much just like straight, like it was just pretty much straight up over for a while, and they just took a long time closing it out. So that's also something that like you get with these teams that have been around together a while. They kind of learn how to stem the bleeding if they can, and try to punch back. So
Okay, and so our standout player for this game was King. Is it Vivi? King Vivi?
King Vivi, yeah. So this is going to be the jungler, King Vivi. We all know King Vivi. King Vivi played extremely well in the win. The Ambessa was like phenomenal. We love the Ambessa jungle. It's so fun to watch. And then like, game two, a little rough, whatever, You're on Sejuani duty. You didn't really int a lot, but you also have very little, like you have okay synergies. I mean, you have a set, whatever. Long game. And then you just come in and slam game three, You and Vivi and Lucifer were just a drive-by squad. They were doing everything in that game. It felt like as far as picking up the kills goes. So, and getting stuff done.
Alrighty. Yeah, let's go on to the second game of the Group B week. It's Malevolent Reckoning. They 2-0'd Flannel. Kind of just seemed like it was a heavy-sided, skill-gapped type of bloodbath, if you will. I didn't look honestly. I didn't look too far into this series, so I don't really have a lot of insight for you. All I can tell you is Slum kind of stood out during the series. What do you have for us? Why is Slum our top MVP?
Yeah, I mean, looking at it, it does look like a skill gap, but also looking back again, there is a bit of a draft diff again here in this game, in this series. I think pretty low on engage relative across the board. And then like, yeah, I mean, Slum just like slammed both lanes. The Renekton lane just absolutely a beast, and then the Urgot was like 1v9. He had a solo kill. It was pretty nuts. And once Urgot gets ahead, there's no stopping the champ. Like it just snowballs so hard. He was literally up like 3 levels on the whole enemy team. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, he went 8-1 in that game, and and Chompy going 8-0 with the Volibear. It kind of, between the two of them alone, they just absolutely dominated the game. So yeah, there's definitely a big gap between the teams. And again, like I said about the who did I say was talking about earlier, Black Feather. You never know. They that could have just been their week one their week one nerves, and got to work out the bugs, and maybe Flannel will come back next week and turn it right around, or maybe they won't. So who knows what's going to happen? But again, week ones are tough because you never know what's going to happen. It could just be first week, whatever you want to call it, and they just need to come together. So going on to the last and final game series of week one, it was the Whittly CB against Horn Lions. They 2-1 Horn Lions. What was your take from that series? Since you pretty much know Whittly pretty good, considering.
Yeah, CB they just played bad. Like they made a lot of mistakes that are not mistakes that they're gonna make. Like game one, like Excel Ziggs was just not great. And that's like one of his staple champions, so that was weird to see. And then same with Toastfish, mid lane, Aurora. Just these are like staple champions on these two players, and they just could not execute. And then like This series also, by the way, complete side note, this series was so long. The average game time in this series was over 40 minutes, by the way.
That is insane. That's
but
long.
But yeah, ultimately, like this game kind of just looked like a typical like. Unironically, it looked like a typical CB series. You do some stupid stuff in the early game, you lose game one, and then you get the talking to by Curry, and then you come in and just kind of put your foot on the gas, and that's kind of what it looked like in game two. They really just kind of stomped out game two a bit. Game three was a lot closer. They almost threw it. I was shocked. That game should have been over way sooner than it was, but ultimately, like, they still came out with a win, but it was below expectations for what I typically think of for CB. CB Whittley.
I got to be honest with you. We got to send them out a message or something and let them know that they can't be going 45-minute games, because I couldn't stay awake through game three, because I think it was the next day by the time they got to the end of game three.
Well, they also just started late, which is funny and true, but hilarious.
So who stood out for you in that game and that you want to blaze as the MVP?
Glaze, that's crazy. I have a few like things about this, like that I had Toastfish written down, but like realistically speaking, it could have been that whole top side. Toastfish kind of did okay in all three games, but a lot of kills on the Pantheon game, made a lot of plays with the ultimate. And then like Shusu, the top laner, he slammed all three lanes. The poor guy, he literally won an Aurelia lane and then a Rumble lane, and then Curry goes, "Yeah, we're putting you on Malphite." So he didn't even get to play the game. Basically, he was a ult bot champion in that game, and then also Rapid Sammy just created so many opportunities, even in the loss, like from the jungle role. He really gave them the opportunity to like actually play the game, especially in game three where it started to slide a little bit. He kind of pulled them back in. Also, Shusu Malphite is so funny to watch. It was awesome. And there's a lot of memes going around in the CB Discord about it.
Oh boy.
Not really a lot. There's like one. But it was great. It was a great game.
Do you want to hear an interesting fact?
What's this fact?
So Malphite was the second most picked champion out of all the games this series, or this week, with 4. Yep. He was picked 4 times, but he was also the second most banned champion. He was banned 6 times. So I don't know. There's just something about that that's kind of. Any idea why?
Do you think that's crazy? How about the fact that he was played in 3 different roles?
That's even more crazy. Usually
multiple.
Usually they're strong in 1, maybe 2 roles, but 3.
Yeah. So, well, the third one is kind of like troll, not troll, but like super niche. There was a Malphite mid, which was of course Buckby.
Okay.
And then there's multiple jungles. I think Thin was one of them, and then I don't know who the other was. And then there was the top laner ones.
Yeah, that is interesting.
Wait, he was picked 4 times?
He was picked 4 times, yeah. No, he was he was picked 4 times.
So he was picked twice in jungle, once in top and once in mid.
Gotcha.
Which is that's the interesting part.
Right, because Malphite was never really a jungler until recently.
Right. And it was still kind of niche mid. Oh, I gank from Vice. That was the other Malphite.
Oh, okay.
So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's
3 roll flexes. I think all of the looking at it in general, I think all of the high presence champions right now, like if you sort by the most present champs in the league after week 1, it's Malphite, Sylas, Jax, Diana, Taric is the top 5. Diana, Jax, Sylas, and Malphite are all 2 roll flexes.
Yeah, it's 2+.
Because Malphite, Sylas can both go top mid jungle technically. Jax can go top jungle. Diana can go mid jungle. And then Taric is like there's a couple Taric mains in this league. So you're always going to get the Terex. But that's kind of interesting.
It'll be kind of fun to watch those stats continue throughout this throughout the whole season because that was obviously week 1. It'd be kind of fun to go into week 6, week 7 and compare these same stats with week 1 and see where it stands and see if it changes drastically or if it kind of stays similar.
Yeah, it's cool because Titan develops its own little miniature meta for every league, and Gladiator is like no different. And it's weird because a lot of the time you look at like some of the other leagues and they're just almost always it's Ash, Braum, Jinx, Sivir, like Nocturne. But one, Fearless kind of helps with that a little bit. But two, like Titan doesn't seem to always be like that. I feel like there's a lot more like not one tricks, but people that have unique mains that aren't synonymous with IBSG competitive.
All right. Well, with that said, let's move on to. So that wraps up week 1. Week 1 was a good start for the league. Fun to watch, but now that we have kind of a baseline for not a full baseline, obviously it's only 1 week, but we have a little bit of a baseline for where teams are falling already, and it kind of works out in a weird way, and I'll tell you why. For predictions for we're going to talk about our predictions for the week 2 matchups, and in Group A, the first game we could talk about is the Hyrulean Heroes are going up against Black Feather, both 0-1 teams, both lost kind of hard in week 1, are now going against each other. So this is going to be kind of interesting to see where this goes. You know what I mean? The Hyrulean Heroes, I feel like they seem like they might be a little bit stronger of a team than Black Feather, but if Black Feather practices hard all week and plays together a lot of scrims and works out some of their kinks, you never know where it could end up. What do you got as far as an outcome for the Hyrulean Heroes versus Black Feather week 2 game?
Yeah, this is an interesting matchup because, like, on paper, at the beginning of the split, I thought Hyrulean Heroes were going to be one of the top teams. But both of these teams actually played quite strong rosters in playing against the Sea Dogs and then Maelstrom. So it's actually really hard to gauge the strength against each other for these teams because they both kind of just lost and not in close games. So ultimately, like, I think Hyrulean Heroes just are more promising on paper still, even after week 1. But like that doesn't mean anything. So I have them winning 2-1. But we can still see, like, there's still a lot of potential coming from this Black Feather L team that could pan out.
Yeah.
So both teams have a player that just likes unique champions with Aragon, Shaco, and then Buckby. So that's at least we should get some spicy picks, which is cool.
Yeah, that's for sure. I'll definitely be tuning into that game to see how it goes and see if the chemistry comes together for both teams really. So yeah, I think a 2-1 is a safe prediction. The next game for Group A, we got Divine Lizards going against the Malevolent Maelstrom 1-0. They're both 1-0 teams. They both won their first weeks, obviously, and I think Maelstrom seemed a little bit stronger to me over Divine Lizards, but again, it's still only week 2. Anything can happen. What do you think on that?
I think Maelstrom's victory was over a weaker opponent than Lizard's victory. I think Vice is stronger than Black Feather L. But that being said, like, Maelstrom were also a lot more like they were a lot more dominant, like, in their win. So it kind of makes sense. I think it'll actually be a closer series than people think. It'll be very interesting because whoever wins this is going to be they're going to be 2-0 in the group and have a head-to-head tiebreaker over one of the 1-1 teams, which will be the winner of the last game we talked about and potentially the 2 teams in the next game we're going to talk about. But to be fair, if the game we're going to talk about next ends in a specific way, the winner of this game could be the only 2-0 team in the group, which would be an
Mhm.
amazing start for either of them in, this split, because there's only so many weeks. Like, we don't have a long time for these seasons. So getting a 2-0 start in general is just very good. And when you're the only team that gets it, it's even more so.
Yeah, that is huge. The one thing like you said, that the Divine Lizards had a little bit tougher of a matchup than Maelstrom did. The thing they have to be careful of is that false sense of confidence, that false sense of security. That anytime you come off a win, you think you're on top of the world and you're the number one team. But the going up against a different difficulty of a team can obviously derail that real quick. So it will be kind of fun to watch and see what happens between those two teams. And like you said, they're almost already playing for a top spot, because if they come out of the woodwork as the first and only 2-0 team in Group A, like you said, that kind of that puts them up on that pedestal, and it but on the flip side also makes them a target. So any team going against them in week 3 will be basically gunning for him, because hey, we're going against the only 2-0 team in the group. So but also something to think about too is that the week 3 teams is when they play a team from Group B, so that'll also kind of shake into that a little bit as well. So anyways, moving on to the third game of Group A, we got Vice Dystopia against the Jolly Roger Sea Dogs. Interesting enough, we got the favorite to win. The Sea Dogs will be our favorite to win this game. But also something to note is that Vice Dystopia also just had a roster change. They changed their jungler. So how do you think that'll play into this upcoming series with the Sea Dogs?
Unless this new jungler is, canyon level, like just way above everyone. Typically, a single roster slot change in the middle of the season doesn't really boost your power level immediately. It's more of an overtime thing. So I think it's very possible that it's potentially going to grow their roster better later in the season if they get some more practice. But like coming into a game where you're playing against one of the better teams in the league with a fresh roster change, it's going to be really hard to like even take a game, honestly. That being said, like Sea Dogs are also they're just good. Like they're a hard team to beat with a well-rounded practiced roster as it is. And now you're swapping junglers, and jungle's not a plug and play role. Like AD carry, a lot of the time you can just pull them out and put in a new one, because they're a lot more like plug and play. They don't impact as much of the early like decision making, macro choices, stuff like that. They kind of just show up to fights. Junglers have so much impact, especially early game, on the way a team paces their game and plays, that this could really either positively or negatively affect the team. And usually it's never positive the first week they're in, which is fine, but expect to be trying to push for the long term instead of getting immediate wins.
The problem is they don't have a lot of time. Like the season's gonna go by so fast that they don't have the time to worry about the long term. They kind of need more of a quicker results. So yeah, definitely see what you're saying. The jungler is kind of, yeah, they kind of set the pace of the games, and so we'll have to see how that plays out. I don't know who their new jungler is. Um, do you happen to know who the new jungler is or no?
It's posted. I don't know who it is,
Okay,
and I'm not gonna go look right now.
yeah, that's fine. Hey, you know what? We'll talk about it next week when we talk about the results of the game and see what happens.
True.
So, all right, moving on to Group B, we have a very difficult matchup for Widowali going up against Malevolent Reckoning. They're both 1-0 teams, but with
Whittly. It's
yeah,
Whittly.
I
He said Whittawali.
we're gonna.
And I don't even have it in the notes. I literally misspelled it in the notes as Whittly, so he didn't screw it up, and he still screwed it up.
How do you know I'm not doing it on purpose? Just to give you something to gripe about.
I don't care. I don't care. I'm gonna flame you. I don't care.
So they, yeah, so they, because of when we talked about the results from week 1, Whittley had that little bit of a rocky second game, and Reckoning,
For
they seem a little more consistent and stable. So, what do you got for a for an outcome for that game, or for that series, I should say?
this one's actually really weird because I think CB could honestly 2-0, but they also are CB. So I know that that's not going to happen, but they're also CB, so that might happen. Like on paper, they should probably not be favored because of week one's outcomes between for these two teams. But CB is also like has X factor. We saw them beat a serious contender in the playoffs last split 3-2. They almost took down the runner ups in the following week. So it's like they have the ability to clutch up, but it's only week 2, so I don't know if they're going to have that clutch factor yet. Especially because this is not a full run back of the old Whittley. That
Right.
being said, I have Malevolent winning 2-1 because I think CB will still take a game. I think they have a lot of determination to get there, but this Reckoning team looks very strong right now and looked very stable in week 1.
I was going to say, stop beating around the bush and tell us that you got Reckoning winning this series.
I think everyone has Reckoning winning the series. I think Excel has Reckoning winning the series.
All right, we're not going to put words in people's mouths. We're going to move on. The next game of the Group B series, you got the Jolly Rogers Royal Fortune going up against Flannel Esports. The both teams kind of underperformed week 1, so
yeah, but differently. It's weird.
Yeah, it's kind of this one will definitely be one of the more interesting games, interesting series to watch, to see what the outcome is and see how the series goes. Who do you got winning this series?
Well, the hard thing is like Flannel are the only team that didn't even win a single map in week 1 in this entire Group B. But at the same time, they also had the hardest matchup, realistically, like on paper.
Okay.
So it could just be that, and that they will just bounce back. And they've been together so long, I'm sure they have the mental to do it. So I'm not too worried about that. It's more the fact that they're now going up against Royal Fortune, who are another relatively strong team. But Royal Fortune also showed weaknesses last week. They dropped a game. They're a decent team. Like I've said, this is actually one of the most run back rostered matchups of the split as far as like returning players to their team.
Mm-hmm.
Because Royal Fortune's got 3 of them, Flannel's whole roster. That's 8 out of 10 players on this in this matchup are literally from last split playing together, and they played each other last split too. So that's the hard thing. I think Flannel are actually going to win 2-1 though, because I think they have clutch factor, and I don't think they're just going to allow themselves to just kind of lose, like hard lose multiple weeks in a row. Like I just can't see that happening. But this one is probably going to be the closest series in my head.
It sounds like it
has
will
a
be.
lot of it definitely has a lot of potential to be exciting because of the players on the teams.
Right. Like you said, they've been both teams have a history of playing together a lot. So that's kind of what it'll be a battle of, is a battle of companionship and experience.
Companionship.
Well, it
the
is
power of friendship.
The power of friendship. No, I'm serious though. And we've already seen it here.
It definitely plays a factor. It definitely plays a factor.
You know, you see with the pros all the time that, you know, two players that play, not even two, but teams that have played together for a long time, they don't ping as much. Their comms are a lot less.
That's not always a good thing.
Yeah, but it's because they already know what each other are going to do. They've been playing together.
I agree with.
You know what I mean?
They understand that they want what each other want more than a typical like new team, so they understand how to adapt to that, which is can be a very big strength.
All right, moving on to the last game of week 2. You got the Twin Dragons going up against the Horn Lions, both 0-1 for week 1. But they both played very strong games, and they had pretty tough matchups. So what do you got for this game, or for this series? I keep saying game, but I know they're series. What do you got for this this series going into it, week 2.
I mean, Horned Lions almost took down CBW, who are top 3-4 from last split. So on paper, pretty solid team. They almost took them down. Could have won. I think their roster also has some strong players on it. So it'll be interesting to see how they adapt going into this week, especially since this is their chance to kind of move up into that middle tier teams. Twin Dragons, on the other hand, they also, I think, actually overperformed my expectations. They took a game off of JR, I believe it was. Yep, JR Royal Fortune.
Yeah.
So I think that also can speak volumes. I think GCC, I mean, obviously GCC as an org won last split, I think. Oh, no, they didn't. I'm lying totally. They had a really strong regular season last split, though, like as an org, with like Belmonts and that. So GCC is definitely not like new to winning, especially in the regular season. So it'll be interesting to see if this team can adapt. I think they definitely have the pieces to do it. I think Mythic Chaos is a great player. I think he played well. And then Iron in mid. I think they have good carry roles. So the hard thing is, though, like Horned Lions, there's a lot of experienced players on this roster on Horned Lions. So if anyone's going to know how to adapt and like fix mistakes, it should theoretically be these players as like in the matchup. So I think this is also going to be a really close matchup that can definitely be very interesting considering. But I feel like whoever wins this series, especially if it's in a convincing fashion, has the potential to kind of fly into that like third, fourth place like strength category, which is all you really need, because if you can make playoffs, then anything can happen. So
yeah, that's very true. What's another thing that'll be kind of interesting to see along with Group A this week will there be one 2-0 team from each division, or will there not? You know, like what I'm getting at is Reckoning, CB, and Royal Fortune all have the opportunity to be the only 2-0 team in the group. But
hold on, JR does not. So Royal Fortune, and then looking at Group A,
yeah, right, right. They do
Heroes,
not. Obviously,
neither of them do because the other game is 2 1-0 teams, so that has to be a 2-0 team. But basically, Flannel Esports and Vice Dystopia can really make the top of the league interesting if they win, because then they'll guarantee that there's only one 2-0 team in both groups.
Right. That's kind of what I was getting at, is that if Royal Fortune drops, there's a potential of a 2-0 team be, one 2-0 team being in each group. And again, that doesn't sound like much, but it will be a good start to the season and kind of give you a big advantage.
I think the more interesting part about that is actually the fact that there'd be 4 1-1 teams in both groups. So literally, there'd be 4 teams tied at 1-1, and only 3 of them can make playoffs.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's true.
And then going into we'll call it. You know what? Unofficially, Sems, let me know if you're seeing this. We call it Super Week. Hear me out, because it's a cross group week in week 3. So we could have a really, really interesting week 3, depending on how this week goes.
That's very true. So that just makes me have to tell you that you have to tune in to Trial by Combat next week, because it's kind of going to be a big important show, considering that
it's always a big important show. Come on now.
Okay.
But, free promo.
But going into week 3 is going to be very important, because for one, you're almost halfway through the season already, at least more than a third. And if things come out that there's 4 1-on-1 teams, week 3 is going to be super important, being that it's going to be super week, like you said. So with that said, is there anything else you wanted to touch on wrapping up week 1, going into week 2? Anybody any shout outs you want to make? Anything else you wanted to say before we head on out of here?
Shout out everyone that gave me streams. And posted streams. Keep doing that. You can DM them to me or post them in the general Glad chat.
Yeah, that was huge. That was huge.
That was helpful. I was able to watch 5 out of 6 games total, I think. So that was good.
Yeah, I think I watched 3 or 4 myself.
So definitely do that, and shout out Curry, because that was a hilarious stream that I watched for the CB game. But ultimately, like, it was just also helpful to have a 5th game to be able to watch out of 6. So I watched 5 out of 6. That's pretty good. So just keep those out there, and shout out Sems again, of course, and Titan in general. And we'll see y'all next week for some bangers.
Yeah, the biggest shout out I have is anybody who not only watches our podcast, but we're at the 45-minute mark, and if you make it this far, thank you very much. That's huge to us. And keep coming back for more. As the season goes on, we'll have more interesting stuff to talk about, and the podcast will develop more and more as the season goes on as well. So thank you, Typhoon, and that's it for today. We will catch you next week for the week 2 results, week 3 predictions, and that's it. You guys have a good night. Good luck this week, and we'll see you next time. Trial by Combat.